Five, four, three, two, one. I'm John Miglosh for the Wisconsin DMA and the International Society for Strategic Marketing. Well, if you didn't see the end of last week's show, where I sang the Star Spangled Banner with great feeling and emotion, not much ability, that's a different story. But I am one of the few people that could fit the Star Spangled Banner in my own range if it's played in the proper key, which it usually isn't because some diva is singing it and not making it, to be honest about it. But anyway, I don't claim to have any tonal quality, but I do claim to be able to hit all the notes low and high in one try. Anyway, so we're going to start off with a commercial from the 4th of July for Black Rifle Coffee, who I think is on Joe Rogan regularly. But they did a little low-budget commercial that I'm sure you missed, because we must have all missed it. And I think you'll, never mind, we'll just play the dumb thing. Let's get here. Okay, off we go. The Star Spangled Banner as played on targets. And then they juice it up a bit. Shotguns. So if you haven't tried Black Rifle Coffee, you might want to look them up. And it's a very diverse group. I might get banned for this. Love it. Oh, yeah. I can't imagine they had any fun doing that commercial. Okay, so I hope you enjoyed that one. If you didn't, you have no soul. That was one of the funniest things I've ever seen. Okay, over the 4th of July, I took the time to listen to and to read What to the Slave is the 4th of July by Frederick Douglass. I highly recommend everyone reading it. It not just because it basically says, "What's wrong with you inviting me here to speak?" in front of the president and everybody else. This was a big time speech, 1852. So that's like, not even a decade before the Civil War breaks out. But it's, a precursor to that. And last night I heard, or maybe it was the 4th of July, I heard that the statue of Frederick Douglass got toppled in Rochester, New York, I think. And, I'm just so opposed to all the statues getting toppled, because though we might not be where we ought to be, or even where we could be, it's a process. And we can't apply standards of today to great people who fought and died to move us along. I remember hearing criticism of President Obama and his health care, and I've shared in that. My health care costs quadrupled after that passed, but on another note. But he said, I got done what I wanted. I wanted to move the process along. It wasn't perfect. It wasn't even what we were hoping for. But it moved the process along. And we have to understand that that's part of history. Nobody gets everything they want, and if they do, it's usually a disaster. Almost every government program fails, if not initially, then in the unforeseen consequences. So we need to keep in mind history and how the process moves along. Okay, well, that said, let's look at Tom Fishburne's cartoon for the day. Facebook ad boycott and 10 years of Facebook cartoons. How did our Facebook ad perform? Well, it got this many likes and this many impressions and this many conversions. But it may have to run next to toxic content, which is poisoning our entire society. In other words, we don't like Facebook. And the boss, I don't know, says, wow, that's a lot of likes. Anyway, so Tom always adds some stuff down here. He adds the perspective of Stefan Lorke, CEO of the World Federation of Advertisers, who's been at the forefront of ad fraud, digital ad fraud. They have some great statistics. If you think it's gone away, it hasn't. It just keeps expanding. But he said 31% are likely to withhold spending, 41% were undecided, and 29% were likely or not planning to withhold. So really, you've got 70% saying they're staying, and 30% saying they might cut spending on Facebook. So I think, hate to admit this, but Zuckerberg is probably right, and I talked about this last week. My guess is that all of these advertisers will be back on the platform soon enough because they deliver a good value. They get you a lot of people, a lot of views, and a very low price compared to what you used to pay on a cost per impression basis in newspapers or print especially. Though mass media, maybe you can do better. So anyway, I really liked this story. The QR, this is from Brand United, and Lily does a nice job because she has a basis for some trend analysis with QR codes. It was invented in 1994. In 2017, Apple updated the iPhone's functionality to be able to read QR codes directly from the camera. And I think Android did it a few years before that. I think it was more like 2012 or 2013 when all of a sudden it was baked into the the Android operating system that you could use your camera. And that's a big breakthrough, although they don't go directly to the link, which bothers me. I usually make a copy of the link before I figure out that I hit the wrong button because they're just these weird little icons. And one has a circle with looks like a little racetrack with an infield in it, and the other has two squares. And I forget which one does what, and you have to hit the circle or the oval racetrack. Anyway, the point made here is that QR codes haven't gotten very high response rates tracked directly compared to just going to a website or something like that. In 2018 and 19, 4 to 5% of all mail observed, and I'm guessing this is like ad mail, not first class, your property taxes are due or something like that. Although those could have it too. All mail observed, only 4 to 5% had any QR codes. In 2020, year to date, 7% of all mail pieces captured in their database. So that basically says, ad mail. 60% increase in the use of QR codes. Now, I'm a big fan of QR codes because it takes the tactical not meaning as opposed to strategic, but as opposed to virtual. It takes that and connects it to the virtual. So I can send you something that you can touch and feel and smell and have to throw away, unlike digital ads that just throw themselves away. Never made that point before. I think it's a good one. The digital world throws itself away and you never have to see it again. Whereas the tactile, you have to get rid of it. You have to, or it's going to pile up on you on your kitchen counter. So you have to look at it to throw it away to make sure it's not important government forms or something. But how do you then interact with it? How do you then get to place the order? And the QR code is that bridge, and I think it's a wonderful bridge. Now, there was one dangerous point here made, which is, and they made the point of some other uses. Restaurants are starting to use them where you can order with your phone from the table and don't have to touch a menu, just get it nearby. I think that's really an interesting application of touch-free. But here is really an important point, because there was an article a couple weeks ago that I commented on where they said they used QR codes and it didn't work. Well, there was no offer. There was no point to going to the website that they mentioned. So this makes a great point. The key to using QR codes successfully comes down to the value it promises to bring. You have to ask yourself why it's worth scanning. Why do I want it? Do I get a free something? Is it quicker to order? What are you offering? And in most cases, they just stick it on there for no good reason, because it breaks all the rules of direct response advertising. Now, here's the dangerous part. And if possible, try to get a little creative with your QR codes. They don't have to be in black and white, and some code generating services will allow you to customize the image, including a special character or logo embedded inside of it. Be very careful with that. You know, you can get an app that will allow you to use pictures, like throughout a catalog, that show your regular product pictures, and people can scan that. I heard a talk a couple of years ago about how a cataloger did that, and it was a lot of work to embed basically a scannable digitization in the background of every image. It was invisible, you couldn't see it, but it would take you, basically they took the image, and if you scanned it with that app, if you would be taken right to the page where that product was shown. That's a great idea, but guess how many downloads they had on that particular app? Like none, like zero, after months and months of work. You want to avoid being too creative with your QR codes, because you want people to understand this is a QR code. I would sit it right on the picture. I would rather see you sit it on the picture in black and white so that people know what it is than I would see you mask it, hide it, put your logo in it. Don't confuse people. Don't require a different app. We just made the breakthrough of getting the scanner embedded in the phone after 30 years or whatever it is. So go with it. Keep it identifiable as a QR code, and I think you'll see better results. But as with all direct marketing, test it. Try it both ways. See which one works better. They're coming on, and it's a great tool for direct mail. But as I said, test it. See if your response goes up. We tested it on a postcard years ago, before just as this, like 2015 or something, just as this was getting into the phones, and we saw a 14% lift in overall click-through or attributable traffic from our list to our site. So test it. You can A/B split it. One good test and you're ready to go. Have a great day. I'm John Miglosh. I hope you enjoyed it. Like and share. Your friends will think you're smart. Bye-bye.